Hi friends, this is Hemant here, and today we are going to learn how to create an API to retrieve data from the tables with joins. Along the way, we would also solve some common issues faced like self-referencing loop detected for property error and the object content type failed to serialize the response body or content type. So let's get started. Here you can see three tables what I have created. The first one is customer, hardware and software. So this customer ID1, he has bought two hardwares, as you can see over here, 1 and 2. So the ID is related to the customer ID in hardware table, and in the software table we have software ID, customer ID and software name. So this customer ID is a foreign key in the hardware table as customer ID. Same as in software table, the customer ID is the foreign key. So we would create a join of these tables and retrieve the data. So let's get started. So for this we would be using entity framework, and to serialize and pass on the data to the web page we'll be using web API. So we would start the project from scratch. Let me go and select file, new project. Okay, let's go into window and select class library. Let me give it a name of circular reference, or circular reference. Error. Okay, so the class library is created. Now let us go and click on circular reference and click on add new item. Let's go into data, select ADO.NET entity model, and let us give it a name of customer model. Click on add. Okay, so we have already created a database, so we would select the entity framework designer from database, select next. Let us create a new connection, specify the server name, SQL authentication, user is SA, give the password, save my password, and select circular reference, test the connection. Okay, click on OK, include the connection string, select next. We would be using entity framework 6.x, select next. Now let us go and select the tables, the customer table, hardware table and software table. Click on finish. Okay, as you can see, our customer model is ready and it has inherited two references, entity framework and entity framework.sql server. So make sure that these two references are there. Okay, and go and click customer model context.context.cs. so this class name would be required. Okay, so if we don't want this class one, let us go and delete this one. Okay, let me add one class. Called as customer repository. Make it public. Okay, so First, what we would do is select all the customer and its related hardware and software. Class called as get all customer, get all customers. Okay, and let us go into our context, and this is the name of our context. Paste it. ctx is equal to new context. Okay, so what we would be retrieving is an iQueryable of customer. Okay, so let us return ctx dot customers. Similarly, what we would do is we would specify an ID and retrieve the customer with a specific ID. So let us paste as int pass ID. The return type would be iQueryable of customer, and in this we would select where c such that c dot ID equal to the ID passed. Dot select e such that we are passing e, and we are retrieving e, and that we would be passing through our iQueryable customer to the calling API. So now both our methods are ready. Now let us go and create our web API. Let's give it a name of circular reference web and click on OK. Okay, so now it would show us different templates. What we are interested is in the web API template. So make sure this is selected. Don't select web forms over here or add. So we are not using any or creating any unit test. So this won't be checked, and make sure that the host in the cloud is also unchecked, and click on OK. Okay, so our web API folders are ready. Now let us go into our controller, our values controller, and we would comment this authorize part since we are not using any authorization. Delete this, and what we would be retrieving is the okay. First, what we need to do is add a reference to the entity project. So we have this namespace included. Okay, in the get, what we would be doing is calling the customer repository. So what we have is customer repository cr is equal to new customer repository. Okay, cr dot get all customers return. Okay, so let us now try and run this application. It would give us some error, and when we get the error, we'll try to resolve it. So let me make this a startup project and run. Okay, our web API is loaded. Now let us go and call our values controller. Okay, so what exception we are getting is no connection stream circular reference entity could be found in the application config. Okay, so let us resolve this issue. The issue comes because in our web in our entity framework we have the connection string, but this connection string we do not have in our web.config. So let us come over here and paste it. So what we have done is copied the connection string from web app.config of our entity framework into our web.config. Okay, so now that issue is resolved. Let us go and again run the application to see if the issue is resolved. Okay, so now what error we are getting is the system.data entity dynamic proxy customer with data contract name customer is not expected, and in the exception message what we have, the object context 1 type failed to serialize the response. Okay, so it's a serialization issue. Let us go and take care of it. So first what you need to do is go into your app_start and click on web API config.formatter.remove. so first we would remove the XML formatting, formatters.xml formatter, and then we would add formatters.add the JSON part. So config.formatters.json formatter. So what we have done over here is remove the XML formatter and add the JSON formatter. So by default whenever you run any web API, the formatting type would be XML formatter. So what we have done is we have removed the XML formatter, and what data we would be retrieving would be in JSON format. Okay, and let me quickly copy paste one line. This line would help us in formatting the output what we are getting. So that being said, let us go and run the application again. Okay, so now you can see the serialization issue is gone, but we are getting another issue. What it is saying is this is another type of failure in serialization. So what the exception message says is self-referencing loop detected for type customer, and what it is saying that the path 0.hardware0. So now let us investigate what is the issue in our entity framework. So let us go into our customer repository. Here you can see is what we are calling is the context.customer. So let us go into this customer class, go to definition. In this customer class let us go into this db set customer, go to definition. Here you can see this customer class has a property called as hardware, and that is a I collection of hardware. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to serialize this customer object, and while serializing this we come into this hardware and we try to serialize this hardware class. So now let us go inside this hardware, go to definition. So in this hardware again we have a customer class. So what is happening is we are going into an infinite loop wherein we have a customer, and in customer we have hardware. Then again in we have an I collection of hardware, and in that I collection of hardware we have the customer. And if we go inside this customer, again we have hardware, and this I collection of hardware has the customer class. So this is an endless loop which is going on. That's why we are getting this error, self-referencing loop detected for property customer, because we have customer, inside customer we have I collection of hardware, and inside that I collection of hardware the single hardware has customer, and then again in the customer we have hardware. So that is why the issue is self-referencing loop detected for property. Now let us go and find a solution for this. Okay, so for this what we would do is, first let us stop the debugging, go into our model folder, and let us create not one but 3 classes. Let us give it a name of customer, and second class give it a name of hardware, and third software. Okay, inside this customer let us create some properties like int customer ID. So let us refer our customer table. In the customer table we have ID and name. So we have created customer ID. Now let us create name. Let us give it a name of customer name. Okay, so before that we have this customer class in our models, but that would conflict with the customer class in our entity framework. So let us go and change this name to customer model. Like so, with the hardware give it a name of hardware model, and for software as well let us give it a name of software model. Okay, so this customer class, now customer model class, have a customer ID and customer name, and this we have two IEnumerable properties. IEnumerable, we have the hardware model, and let us give it a name of hardware. IEnumerable software model, let us give it a name of software. Okay, our customer model is ready. Now let us go and create a hardware model. So in the table what you can say is, in the hardware we have hardware ID and hardware name, and the customer ID. Customer ID we won't be taking in our class because that would come in the join. We would require hardware ID and hardware name. Okay, so let's create properties, hardware ID and hardware name. Okay, now let us go into the software model, and again create two properties, software ID and string software name. Okay, so now our model is ready, but to access this model we would require a factory. So let us go and create one model factory. Okay, so what this model factory would do is, so the method inside this model factory would take in this customer what is present in the entity framework, and it would return a customer model. So the input is the customer and the output would be the customer model. Okay, so public. Okay, so the return type would be IEnumerable customer model, and create, and inside this we would be passing customer. So this customer who is from the entity class, so let us give it a name of customer. Okay, so what we would be returning here is returning new customer model, and inside this customer ID would be customer dot ID, and customer name would be per ID dot name. It would be customer model. Okay, so what we have created so far is customer ID and customer name inside our customer model. So this hardware and software, let us create it afterward. First we would see now exactly what we are getting. So let us go inside our values controller, and instead of IEnumerable of customer, okay, so what we want now is IEnumerable of customer model. So top. So what we would be doing here is passing this get all customer into our model what we had created. So this would be passed into the model factory, and then that would return me an IEnumerable of customer model. So let us do it. First what we need to do is create an instance of model factory, underscore model factory, let me create a constructor and initialize this model factory. Okay, and dot to list dot select the customer such that c dot underscore model factory dot create and pass the customer. Now let us go and see what we are getting. Let me run this application. Okay, as now you can see the customer ID and customer name is getting retrieved, but we are not getting hardware and software because we have not implemented it. So from this we can say that the serialization is resolved, but we are yet to implement this hardware and software. So let us go and implement it. So this is my model factory. Now okay, let us stop the debugging. For hardware we have customer dot hardware dot select h such that create comma for software is equal to customer dot software dot select as such that create. Okay, so now it is giving here an error that create h is not implemented. So let us go and implement this thing. So first let us go and implement for hardware model create hardware okay. As you can see, now this error has gone since we have not implemented the software one, so this error is still there. Okay, so now let us return new hardware model. We have hardware ID is equal to hardware dot ID hardware ID, and for hardware name we have hardware dot hardware name. Okay, now the hardware model is implemented. Let us go and implement this, that is software model. Public software model create software. So from here we would be returning new software model software ID is equal to software dot software ID, and software name is equal to software dot software name. Okay, so now we have implemented hardware model and software model. Now let us go and run the application. To showing there were some inbuilt errors. Okay, let us see what were. Okay, it must be a typo. Okay, we missed the semicolon. Okay, let us again go and run the application. So as you can see, we have the customer ID, the customer name, the hardware for customer 1, software for customer 1, then we have the customer ID 2, customer ID 2 name, we have the hardware part and the software part. So by this way we are able to retrieve all the data related to customer and the customer hardware and customer software. So this brings us to the end of this video. Do like, comment and share. Thank you.